Frederick Seidel has been dubbed, quote, the poet the 20th century deserved, unquote, and is also considered one of, quote, the best poets writing today, unquote. Other aliases critics have given Seidel are, quote, the most frightening American poet ever, unquote, and, quote, the Darth Vader of contemporary poetry, unquote. Fitting with these nicknames are his criticisms and characteristics of his poetry, having been described as sinister, disturbing, savage, wicked, and critics claim that some poems are anti-Catholic and anti-Semitic, both claims Seidel denies. Despite these somewhat degrading titles and harsh criticisms, Seidel has many well-respected admirers, poets such as Billy Collins and Paul Muldoon, novelists like Norman Rush and Jonathan Franzen, and critics Richard Poirier and Adam Phillips. New York Times writer David Orr suggests his praise and disgust both stem from the fact that he is, quote, very good at saying things that can seem rather bad, unquote. Seidel was born into a wealthy family in St. Louis, Missouri in 1936. He was exposed to the arts at a young age. He was a very talented violinist at age 11. Despite this, he quit. His exposure to poetry resulted from the October 25, 1948 issue of Time magazine. 12-year-old Seidel was exposed to verses of Ezra Pound's The Passion Cantos while reading a review of the poem. Regarding that day, Seidel says, "That did it for me. I had a moment of, shall we call it revelation? Age 12 and understanding that this was what I was meant to do." Seidel then began to study the works of T.S. Eliot, Dante, and most importantly, Pound. During the Thanksgiving of his freshman year at Harvard in 1953, Seidel met with Pound, who was incarcerated at St. Elizabeth's Ward for the Criminally Insane at the time. Additionally, Seidel met with T.S. Eliot while on a leave of absence in Europe. Although Seidel does state that while his work doesn't mimic that of Eliot or Pound, Pound had an enormous effect on him. Seidel did go on to receive his A.B. from Harvard. A feature about Seidel's poetry that is so interesting is that while he enjoys writing in formally correct methods, such as rhyme and regular meter, he takes, quote, considerable pleasure in violating these norms, unquote. He also believes that breaking form is a good way to reassert it. Seidel also includes a wide array of allusions in his poems, ranging from his passion of Ducatis, history, and places such as Italy, the Carlisle, Le Cirque, East Hampton, and Central Park. This is Frederick Seidel's poem, Homage to Pessoa. I once loved. I thought I would be loved, but I wasn't loved. I wasn't loved for the only reason that matters. It was not to be. I unbuttoned my white gloves and stripped each off. I set aside my gold-knobbed cane. I picked up this pen and thought how many other men had smelled the rose in the bud vase and lifted a fountain pen and lifted a mountain and put the shotgun in their mouth and noticed that their hunting dog was pointing. This poem explores the dynamics of love and relationships. The speaker writes on the subject of love and how love exists and why it doesn't exist. Line 5 states that he was not loved simply because it was not to be. This raises the question of true love and its validation among lovers. Because if the speaker is so affected by not being loved back, yet he loved and cared, how real can true love be? The references to white gloves and the gold-knobbed cane suggest a sort of formality, as if the speaker had tried to court the woman, something of a magnitude greater than flirting. I like the metaphor between rosebuds and relationships. The bud is the very last part before a rose blooms, and a full rose is the final product. As in a relationship, if dating is a final product, I imagine smelling the rose in the bud refers to almost dating, to almost making it but not quite. This feeling of defeat and fallen hope is explored through potential suicide. The speaker thinks about all the other men who have been in this position and have felt similarly, and have also contemplated suicide. The connection between the shotgun, a typical rifle used for hunting game, and a hunting dog is cleverly used in this poem because it brings in a final sense of hope. Since the objective of hunting is to bring down game, and the hunting dog is pointing, most likely to fallen game, it represents some optimism and hope, because some game has been killed, meaning the objective was accomplished. Relating back to the speaker, the hunting dog pointing out success serves as a distraction from his sorrow of lost love and a sense of optimism for the future. The reference to the hunting dog also raises the old saying, the dog's the man's best friend. Interestingly, Pessoa could refer to the Portuguese poet and writer Fernando Pessoa, who never married, though there is no clear reference. has so enjoyed his own company to that of others. In this regard, the speaker may have finally realized that he doesn't need love or relationships to be happy. The last line is very oddly placed because it's unrelated to the general theme of the poem. This serves as a relief of tension. It is not surprising to see this in Seidel's poems, as he likes to break form and maintain it.